So today, I think the topic that sort of we came up with is called the Sea of Change, because I think for the last 3.5 years of running Shiok Meats, starting up and running Shiok Meats, we have managed to sort of change a lot of things in the seafood industry in terms of thinking of where our seafood comes from. And the reason being that the demand for seafood and impact on the planet is definitely very high. Sorry, as more and more people are populating this world, pandemic or not, there's definitely demand for seafood. And the industry is actually grappling with environmental and social issues with regards to overfishing, mislabeling, plastic and metal contamination, mangrove clearances to set up a lot of the farms, human rights issues that we've all sort of seen and heard of, definitely. And of course, excessive bycatch if you look at wild caught seafood. So the interesting thing is the seafood market globally is worth about $250 billion US dollars, out of which, interestingly, $147 billion is just crustaceans or shellfish. I'm talking about your mussels and shellfish and shrimp, crab, lobster, crayfish, and so on. So it's a huge industry, and most of it is actually present in APAC or Asia specifically. And one of the UN reports said that the ocean biodiversity is actually in the peril due to overfishing and climate change. So if you look at this heat map here, you can see that most of the crustaceans that are eaten by us in the world is actually produced, processed, and exported from a very lopsided world map, but all from sort of the east of the world, which is in APAC, in Asia specifically. And a lot of it is consumed in the West as well, but actually Asia is also the largest consumer of crustaceans in general as well. So looking at all of this in 2018, my co-founder Kai and I, we decided to embark on cultivated seafood, and specifically crustaceans, given the fact that we both are from Asia. We live in Asia, in Singapore, and we decided that we'll go after a protein that everybody likes, but also has some issues in the industry, to say the least. And hence we formed Shiok Meats in August 2018 with a sustainable alternative where we focus on cultivated crustaceans, including shrimp, crab, lobster, and crayfish, and we produce this using stem cells. Sorry. So actually, Shiok Meats is the first ever cultivated seafood and meat company in Southeast Asia and Singapore. And in fact, in 2018, nobody was talking about cultivated meat in this part of the world. Singapore, the government, or everything else in Singapore wasn't talking about alternative protein. So it is a very uncharted territory that we were getting into. But I think we both are risk takers, so we decided we want to go for this. And in fact, globally, we were the first cultivated crustacean meat company in the entire world. For those who are not aware, Shiok actually means delicious or fantastic in Singapore and Malay slang, hence the name for the company. And as you can see on the right, there are only a handful of companies that are working on cultivated seafood, and Shiok Meat specifically has a unique positioning on crustaceans. Our meats are environment friendly, delicious and healthy, strengthens our food supply, and is cruelty free as well. We have this grand vision to be the global leader in cultivated seafood and meats, and we are definitely inching towards that, with a mission to bring sustainable, delicious, and healthy seafood and meats to all your tables, all your meals, all your supermarket shelves. And the values that we carry most are sustainability, health, innovation, opportunity, and kindness. And this all cannot happen without our team. Yes, Kai and I started the company, but eventually we are about 40 plus people now in the company. And we comprise of about engineers, scientists, researchers, business professionals, food tech, culinary, name it all, and we have it within the team. And it's been amazing working with them for the last 3.5 years. A little bit of my background specifically, I'm actually a stem cell scientist by training. I have a PhD in stem cell biology, but I'm also a serial entrepreneur and have done some business in the past. So sort of put that together and my passion for the environment and animals, and decided that I want to start a stem cell based meat and seafood company. So, like I said, in 2018, when we started, Singapore wasn't thinking about cultivated meat, or wasn't slated to be that world leader in approving cultivated meat or anything like that. But the week that we actually showcased our first prototype, in a shrimp dumpling, is when Singapore announced that they're going to be leading this industry by coming up with regulatory framework, by supporting in terms of funding and grants, also in terms of understanding what the consumers want, opening up markets, and so on. Singapore, being a very small country, it's 40 kilometers east to west. We are called the Little Red Dot. We literally put ourselves on the world map, and we poised ourselves to become Asia's hub for alternative proteins. And the same year, Impossible was launched, Beyond was launched, Omni was launched, and a lot more other plant-based meats. And then in 2020, as we all know, Singapore was the first country to approve cultivated meat with Eat Just Chicken, or good meat. And they also came up with a plan that's called 30 by 30, because alarmingly in Singapore, given that we're so small, we don't really have agriculture. So we import 90% of our food, which means that we only produce 10% of what we eat. And we're a population of about 6 million. That is quite scary if you think about it. So the Singapore government came up with a very aggressive plan called 30 by 30, where they want to increase the local food production from its current 10% to 30% by 2030. And because we don't have land, they definitely came up with ideas for it, and they supported vertical agriculture, plant-based protein, cultivated protein, insect-based, and so on, as you can see from some of the innovations that they've listed in this newspaper cutting. But coming to Shiok meat specifically and crustaceans, I think our beloved, crustacean meat is liked by all. And so what we do at Shiok Meats with our patent pending technology is we take out the muscle and the fat stem cells from live animals. We grow them in large scale vessels called bioreactors, which basically maintain your temperature, pressure, provide a very conducive environment for your cells. And those who are not aware of what stem cells do, they're sort of the cell zero, or the birth cell of different organs of the body of any animal, or even plants per se. So what we do is we exploit that capability of them and that ability of them, and we grow them in large stainless steel tanks, much like your brewery. But instead of brewing beers, you're actually brewing seafood or meat, in our case, shrimp meat to start off with. And we feed them non-animal based, plant-based, edible liquid ingredients. And this is called the cell culture media. Whoever has heard of that term has also heard of the term fetal bovine serum, or FBS, and how it's very expensive. It's from an animal. It shouldn't be used in cultivated meat. I agree. We don't use FBS. Shrimp, lobster, and crab cells do not require animal components or FBS or fetal bovine serum. In fact, in-house, we have formulated a completely safe and edible plant-based media that can be fed to our cells, and that actually provides nutrition to our cells during the process as well. And in about 4 to 6 weeks, we get our product. Right now, our meats are minced. They don't have any shape or structure, but we are working on a 3D technology as well. But minced shrimp, crab, lobster works very well in the Asian market, especially for dumplings, for spring rolls, shrimp balls, in your noodle dishes, pasta, rice dishes, as well as soups as well. The interesting thing that we do have as part of our technology is the cell culture media, or the liquid nutrient broth that we feed the cells at the end of the process, actually has a lot of flavor in it. And hence we convert that liquid into a powder that becomes like a seasoning powder, like your shrimp seasoning or lobster seasoning. All of this is not just technology or sci-fi or biotech. It is actually proven to work in products. And we have showcased our meats in different prototypes over the last 3 years. So we launched our first shrimp product in the Siu Mais in 2019 at an event here in Singapore. Then we showcased our lobster meat in 2020 and our crab meat last year, along with the other meats as well. And it has been well liked, well received. These were closed door tastings, but we had some of our investors, the media, other collaborators and partners from the industry come and taste our products. And of course, apart from this, we have been doing multiple tastings during our fundraising or other showcases that we have, and it has been extremely successful. So I think one question on everybody's mind is, when can we taste this? Where can we taste this? So for the last 2 to 3 years, it's been very intense work on R&D. And last year, we actually scaled up to an advanced R&D production plant called the mini plant. We call it the mini plant. And this year is very crucial for us as we gear up for regulatory approval here in Singapore, as well as build our first manufacturing plant here in Singapore as well. So we're looking to launch our first shrimp product next year. So that's the answer to your question. If you want to taste it, you have to come to Singapore, and you will be tasting it at least in one restaurant next year. And last year, this was a key milestone for us. I think I was just discussing this morning with my co-founder, but we have run this company more during COVID and less during normal times. So it's been quite challenging, but I think we have hit the milestones that we want to hit. We have made significant progress, especially given the fact that a lot of the crustacean R&D work has been done in-house. Not much has been studied outside, which differs from red meat and white meat, for example. So last year, we actually are very happy that we built the mini plant and we launched it, and we had the Minister for Sustainability and Environment from Singapore, Ms. Grace Fu, inaugurated. As you can see on the right, that's our mini plant. We have scaled up from the benchtop 1 liter, 2 liter, 5 liter bioreactors to 50, 200, and 500 liters. So we're pretty happy. And with this mini R&D plant, we are doing process optimization, generating data for regulatory approval, making all the mistakes that we can in terms of scale up before we go into a larger pilot manufacturing plant. Having been this first company in this part of the world, working on this technology, we have had to build an ecosystem from scratch as well. So we call it the Shiok ecosystem, but we have 3 main pillars under that. One is where we collaborate with other companies. We have a very strategic collaboration with Integriculture in Japan and other companies around the globe. But what we did last year was also acquire Singapore's first red meat company working on cultivated meat technology called Gaia Foods. And we work with them on beef and pork using stem cells right now. In fact, their USP is that they make structured red meat. So their technologies are on the IP. As you can see here on the right on the dish, you can see thin slices of beef, but we'll get to that beef steak and pork chop pretty soon. So we decided to acquire them and collaborate with them more on the structured side for seafood as well as diversify our product portfolio and work together in this ecosystem in Singapore, Southeast Asia, and the rest of Asia. Second is we have always believed in hybrid products. So even with our prototypes in our dumplings, for example, it was a pork and shrimp dumpling. But the pork, of course, is not conventional. It's plant-based pork. So we collaborate with plant-based ingredients and plant-based companies to give that final product to consumers. And like I said, we are looking at different building blocks within the food ecosystem, just not the meat, but we're also looking at the seasoning and flavoring powders and so on. Having spoken all of this, I think at the end of the day, we all have to remember that the technology can be great, the product can be great, but there has to be a market and consumers want it and they need it. So we decided to do surveys among about 1,000 to 1,500 people in 2 different countries. And in Singapore, we saw that 78% of them are interested to try cultivated seafood. And in Hong Kong, a whooping 95% is interested to try. So this was, of course, an anonymous survey conducted by us, but it was very interesting to understand why they want to look at this, and varied reasons between the 2 countries were everything from environment to health to cruelty to ethical reasons. So it's sort of a culmination of all these reasons coming together for why they're looking at alternatives. And like I said, we are building that ecosystem here. So I'm very happy to announced that just as of a couple of weeks back, we launched the APAC SCA, which is the Asia Pacific Society for Cellular Agriculture. It has not been an easy feat, but we managed to get 11 cultivated meat companies across APAC from China, Japan, Korea, Singapore, and so on to come together, Israel as well, to come together to work on 3 main things. One is harmonization of regulatory frameworks. because Asia is very, very fragmented. Different countries have different rules and regulations. So we want to see how we can work together. Consumer education and surveys. I think we need to bring transparency to the food industry and, tell people how we make it, where we make it, how it's made, who made it, where it comes from. In fact, our mini plant has a viewing gallery that we also get the public, students, and whoever visits our facility to come over and see the mini plant with their eyes and see how their food is made. And of course, the third objective being labeling and nomenclature. I think we have gone everywhere from lab grown meat to cell based meat to cell cultured to cultivated to cultured to through on. And we sort of settled on cultivated at this point, but we want to harmonize that around the world as well. And all of this doesn't come inexpensive. Yes, we have had to raise a lot of money and raising a lot more, but we've been extremely blessed to have really supportive investors. Food companies, strategic seafood companies invest in us because they believe in the mission and they're looking at our technology as a very innovative technology. So as Ahmed mentioned, we managed to raise about $30 million US till date from global investors. But it's been extremely, heartwarming to see that people believe in the technology and the product. And this is through our seed round, Series A and so on. But now we've just opened our Series B. So if you're an investor on this panel, please do reach out to us if you haven't spoken to us already. And I think we also wanted to put together a couple of mentions and honors that we have received. I think the most important that I want to draw your attention to in this slide is we are here to build a sustainable company in every form, shape, and size. And hence carbon emissions and the amount of carbon that we use in our labs and mini plant also is important for us. So we actually joined the CPLC, or Carbon Pricing Leadership Coalition, here in Singapore. And I'm happy to say that we actually got a low carbon badge from them very recently. And we hope to maintain that as we scale up and produce more. Very honored by Nikkei, Fast Company, and OCBC Bank for getting multiple awards in the emerging enterprise section and the innovate section as well. And I'll stop there. I think I took a good 18 minutes or so. So just leaving you with this sentence, which is same great taste, better for the planet, and happy to take questions. Thank you.